Actually, just I've been detained in Sudan for like a quite of time, and I've been tortured in the prison.
He is a prisoner of the war on terror. Canadian officials were complicit in his torture in Sudan. From October 2004 to June 2009, they refused to bring him home.
Personne, personne, personne n'est illégal. Personne, personne, personne n'est illégal. Personne, personne, personne n'est illégal. Personne, personne, personne n'est illégal.
Well,
Clear his name. Stop the list. What do we want?
justice!
Clear his name. Stop the list. What do we want?
Justice! And after I want to come back to Canada, I find myself forbidden to come back by the Canadian government, and I stuck in the Canadian embassy. I stayed for 14 months for my protection, and just with the people of Canada, I fight just to come back, and after that, the federal court enforced the Canadian government to allow me to come back in the country.
Je me demande, c'est qu'est-ce qui se passe? Pourquoi le gouvernement refuse d'agir? Est-ce que c'est une question politique? Il y a des motifs en arrière de ça. Quand ses propres agences, ses propres services de renseignement ont dit qu'il n'y avait rien à retenir pour M. Abdelrazik, pourquoi est-ce qu'on refuse d'agir?
This is not an isolated incident of extraordinary rendition. This is not an isolated incident of racial profiling. This is not an isolated incident of harassment and surveillance. This is business as usual. It is racist scapegoating in the name of the so-called war on terror. The war on terror is not a war for our security. It is a war for a white Canada. A war that casts immigrants and refugees as threats, as an assault on the border to justify racist immigration policies. It is a war for a white Canada based on the colonization of the indigenous people of Turtle Island. It is not a war for our security. It is a war that creates racist hysteria. It is a war to justify violence and occupation abroad. If you can say that your national security is endangered by creating an external threat, then you can justify violence abroad. Like all wars, the war on terror goes hand in hand with neoliberal economics.
I came back, but it's still not over. I'm still in a prison. Even I walk in the street, I'm still in a prison because of my name added to list 1267. It's belonging to United Nations, and really just I want my name to be delisted from that list and to have my life to come to normal with my children. And I ask the government of Canada to act on my behalf. Thank you very much.
After a long campaign, after humongous support, after a legal battle in the courts of justice of this country, despite the fact that he's here with us today, and we're so glad that he's here with us today, unfortunately he's not free, and that imprisonment continues. He is still in an invisible prison, an invisible cell called the UN 1267 list.
Solidarité avec Abdelrazik. Solidarité avec Abdelrazik.
I came out here just to let the people to know the situation I was in. And just I want to remind the government of Canada to stop to play with my life and my children's life, and to act on my behalf to delist my name from that list.
I was crying. I can't believe my country is doing this, and it's like I'm ashamed of being Canadian when things like this happen.
And the case of Abousfian Abdelrazik poses questions of democracy here in Canada and elsewhere in the world. Because when we talk about democracy, some people use that term when they sit comfortably in their offices. And democracy over time has become some sort of institutional folklore that is to be sung by the politicians anytime they need votes for their elections. But then you have another aspect of democracy, which is real democracy, which is the people's participation. And there are several ways for the people of a country, of a community, of a state, to express their will. And it's part of the major tenets of democracy to validate what the people express as their will and make it into a reality. So all of that is to say that democracy could be either explained in a very theoretical way, or it could become a practice for a people in the country. But in order for the people in the country to practice democracy, they need to have the respect for the basic fundamental rights. When you're a citizen of a country, you are entitled as a human being to basic fundamental human rights. You cannot talk about a democratic country when the civil democratic rights of a citizen are being deprived. So when we look at the situation, racism is part of Canadian democratic institution. I am African and Canadian, just like Abdelrazik. And as a Canadian, I am participating in the democratic debate of this country, and I expect that my basic fundamental human rights will never ever be deprived. But unfortunately, it seems that I might not have the right color, or for somebody else, it might not have the right faith. So the question that I ask, as a Canadian citizen, as an African, as a world citizen, what do you mean when you talk about democracy in your offices with your suit and tie, when you actually deprive an individual from his basic human rights somewhere in a foreign land?
R-A-Z-I-K. Donc Abdelrazik tout ensemble, c'est son nom de famille. Abdelrazik, ça va tout ensemble. Puis, voilà. Et Abousfian est son prénom. A-B-O-U-S-F-I-A-N. Alors, Abdelrazik est revenu cet été, là, ça avait fait un peu de... On a beaucoup parlé dans les médias, justement, parce que c'est la Cour fédérale qui avait ordonné au gouvernement de le rapatrier. C'est un peu comme la situation de M. Kader, Marc Kader, là. Alors, il avait été emprisonné au Soudan et il semblerait que ce soit bel et bien la requête des fonctionnaires canadiens qui ont demandé aux autorités soudaniennes, finalement, de l'emprisonner, il semblerait. Là. Exactement. Donc, il avait vécu torture et tout ça extra-pays, c'est-à-dire une torture par un pays tiers, c'est-à-dire. Et il y a d'ailleurs une poursuite qui a été déposée là, il y a quelques mois par M. Abdelrazik contre le gouvernement canadien pour son inaction dans son dossier parce qu'il lui a primé son droit constitutionnel à revenir au pays. C'est un citoyen canadien. Quelques mois. Ouais.